Hello, I'm on my work bench over here. Never mind the scratches and nicks you see on it. We do a lot of work on this table. In any case, today I wanted to talk to you about learning how to learn. This is one of my go-to books that I go to quite a bit. It's by a guy named Jerry Lucas. Check it out at your library or purchase your own copy. It teaches you how to memorize things and how to learn and how to improve your memory and learning. So it's a really great book. Basically, any kind of memory that you're going to do, any kind of memorizing or remembering or learning, any of these tools, whether it's from this book or any kind of memory book or learning book or boosting your memory, you're going to do one or a combination of these three things. You're either going to link something together to existing information at hand, or you're going to substitute it for something to help you remember it, or you're going to rearrange the letters or words or rearrange the concepts. So there's only three different ways to deal with memories, three main basic things to keep in mind. The whole goal is if you have something that you need to remember or learn that is not tangible, like for example symbols in chemistry or in math, the whole goal is to make these things that are intangible into tangible pictures that you can then picture and visualize and do things with. Okay? All right, so you've got 8 different types or systems. You've got the link system, which is there's subsystems of that we're going to cover in a second. We're not going to get into detail. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of this because it's a lot to there's a lot of tools in here and it just takes some time to work through them. So I won't be able to give you any meat and potatoes today. I'm just going to give you a big picture of it. So we've got the link system, we've got the anagram system, sound alike word system. For example, if you need to remember someone's name, for example, Harry. Harry rhymes with Larry, Barry, all kinds of different sound alike words that you can use. Consonant number system, the peg word system, substitute system, the look-alike system, and once again, this is good for making things that are intangible tangible, like symbols in chemistry and physics and math. Also in learning about finance and investing, that deals with a lot of numbers and statistics and probabilities, things like that. You've got the 200-word locator system. This is a really good master key if you're having to learn about anatomy or something with maps or diagrams, helping you to remember specific locations in space, spatial things such as maps, for example, or muscle or body anatomy for medical students, medical courses. And then down here, I have added the Kabbalistic tree of life, numbers 0 through 9 or 1 through 10. You can count them on both hands. That is a system that I use to help me memorize and remember and learn new things. And we're going to cover that right now. But this is from Learning How to Learn. Now, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, I added that in there. This is not from him. He doesn't have that in this book. All right, so let's get right down to it. The Kabbalistic Tree of Life, as you can see, is 10 different circles here. Okay, now there is a lot of tradition attached to this. I'm not going to be using it in any kind of Jewish tradition, philosophical or otherwise. I'm strictly using it for the abstract ideas of numbers 1 through 10. Okay, but the correspondences for the tree of life in the Hebrew names is Keta, the crown or the source of all or the divine, where everything comes from. 2, Chokmah or wisdom, which is the line. So you start off with a point in space, a dimensionless point in space. And then from there, you have a second point of view, or 2, which now has duality, or the polar opposites, yin yang, male, female, up, down, okay? These are all ideas, by the way. So what you're learning here is a correspondence. You're not saying this is the same as something else, but you're linking things together. You're noticing associations, okay? Bina, 3, understanding. And you have here the polar opposites. You have a conflict. You have a negotiation. Well, here you rise above the conflict to a broader perspective, a third point of view, understanding. Okay? And next you have Chesed, Gibura, Tiperet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malkut. Now, these are meaningful for me. If you don't know about the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, I would recommend studying it and reading on it, because there are a lot of correspondences and associations that you can make. Once you lock them in, it's going to make learning new things and tagging new things to this Kabbalistic tree. This is my main master key of memory and learning. It's going to make things super, super easy and super fun. You're going to learn so many new correspondences and connections between things that you didn't even think had any kind of connections. And that's going to make it a lot easier for you to remember things, because now you've got interest. Not only that, but you're able to tag these things onto things that you already know and know well. So here we go. We've got the link system. And this is basically, the basic link system is like a bunch of chains connecting things one to another. You've got the pure link system, which is like a chain link. You've got the associative, or the correspondences, and this is what I'm doing here. This is an associative type of system here that I'm using, actually. All right. You also have a directional link system, which is good for diagrams and having to learn or remember things in a specific direction, like on maps, for example. You also have the sublink, which is a pure link within a pure link, and that is explained in the book a little bit more. Next, you have the anagram system, and you have something called directional anagrams, and this is words that are formed by rearranging the letters into something that you can remember a lot easier. For example, adios. It's not spelled in the Spanish version, but it is pronounced adios. And what is adios? Basically, it helps you to remember that in this whole book, in this whole system, whatever system you're using, you want to have action in your visualization, in your memory creation. You want to have a running scene in your head. You want to have like a short clip of something happening. You want it to be distortion. You want to have a huge exaggeration. Okay, you want it to capture your interest. You want it to be out of proportion, and you want it to be a substitution. So in this book here, to explain it to you a little bit better, the way he has you, what that really means is that anytime you want to learn something, you want to go ahead and make it not make sense. You see this? You want to make, because if you make it something that makes sense to you, or I mean, this will make sense to you personally, but something that is ordinary, you're going to be much likely to forget it. But if you have this, you see how this strange thing, I don't know how to explain this, but this is a running scene of pieces of information that someone is learning, and they have created these hooks and pegs and associations, you see. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about adios. And adios itself is an anagram. Okay. Next, you have the peg word system. This helps you to remember info in and out of order. And you have the consonant number system. Now, this is the building block to a lot of the other memory methods that you're seeing here. So this is one to really spend a good amount of time on. But this helps you to learn long digit numbers. It makes numbers tangible. And within that consonant number system, you have the one sound method, the one word locator method, the combination method, and the adjective peg word method. Okay. Next, you have the 200 word locator system. Once again, this is good for anatomy and remembering specific locations in space and time. You also have the substitute system, and this changes one item or thing for another so it can be pictured. So sometimes you're going to have information that is not tangible. You don't have a picture right away, and you got to kind of work it and use one of these or a combination of these. So basically, it boils down to either linking something substituting, or rearranging. That's it. Those are the only 3 things you really need to remember. And then once you get the book, you can dig in and you can start learning how to learn and memorize better. For example, let me see if I can turn to one of these pages here. All right. So this is an example of the pegwork system. And as you can see, you have a visual of a tie, which looks a lot like a number 2. You've got a number 2 here, and you've got the word N as in Noah, and then you've got a man holding a stick. So there's 2 objects here, right? And I think this is maybe something that you could use also to learn and remember names. 3, as you can see here, 4, 5, and on and on and on. So you have these key codes and these methods that can help you to retain information and learn a lot quicker. And it doesn't matter if it's mathematical stuff, if it's lists, if it's people's names, or if it's numbers, textbook stuff, anything like that. You can use this. Let's see right here. This is the table of contents. As you can see, we've got pure link, sound alike, consonant, so forth, so on. But you'll be able to learn about chemical symbols if you need chemistry, physics, math, sciences. They've even got Bible memory for people who are into that. English vocabulary, foreign vocabulary, so if you're wanting to learn a new language, knowing the day of any date. So that's pretty cool. You can impress your friends. Specific appointments by day and hour, so that's really helpful. That really helps me. Formulas and equations, numerical positions of the alphabet, and curing absent-mindedness. I still need some work on that, though, because there's some things I just can't remember. Speeches, all right, presentations, learning textbooks, magazines, manuals, and something for children here, how to analyze, attack, and solve learning problems. And that's it. So check out this book. Here is something I've done. All right, so quickly I'll show you an example of how I'm using this personally. I like to take certain books and I like to just kind of get the fundamentals out of them. This is Personal MBA, Master of the Art of Business. There's the Feeling Good Handbook. This is Cognitive Behavior Therapy and Seeking Wisdom by Peter Bevelin. And this talks about the mistakes in thinking here. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. Here we go. Psychology of Misjudgment, 28 Mistakes in Thinking. You've got the Physics and Mathematics of Misjudgments. You've got Guidelines to Better Thinking. So this is all about rational and logic and avoiding a lot of unnecessary suffering and trauma in life and just being wise, basically. This here is Cognitive Behavior Therapy. It has the 10 major common cognitive distortions that we all tend to have. So I went ahead and did some memory stuff with that. And this one has 248 principles, business principles, and mental models. These don't just apply for business, but you've got the main piece, value creation, and you've got value delivery. You've got the marketing, sales. Okay, here's the value delivery. You've got finance. You've got the human mind. And from there, working with yourself, working with others, understanding systems, analyzing systems, improving systems. So I needed a way to pare this down to where I could kind of make it a little bit more tangible and a lot easier to remember. I'm not going to be memorizing every single piece so I can spill it back out on a test. But what this does is to basically absorb it into your bones so that you're actually living it and implementing it on a practical level. You might not be consciously able to put every single piece of information on a test paper and regurgitate everything onto a test, but you're going to have the whole thing absorbed according to what you need to do and how you need to do it. So here we go. All right, I forgot to tell you that I also have the 10 states of being from the Trivium on here too. So what I do is I find correspondences between certain books and certain topics. And today I found quite a bit of correspondences between all of these books here and more. So this is Personal MBA. What I started off with, as you can see, is I correlated the 10 states of being from the Trivium with the section on finance. So some of the principles that you have here, and if you look here on finance, you've got profit, profit margin, value capture, sufficiency, valuation, cash flow. You have all of these principles, but I needed a way to kind of organize them in my head and be able to hook them onto things that I already knew, abstract principles that I'm already very familiar with, to hook these onto. So what I went ahead and did, and this is called the Associative method, you find correspondences, all right? So the first one I did, of course, was profit, and the reason I put this in number 1, which corresponds to substance in the Trivium, one of the first states of being, is that profit is basically the main goal of a business. It is, you could say, it is the substance of the business. And from there you have cash flow cycle, 4 methods to increase revenue. And then here are some abstract ideas that go along with the principle of one, holy one, unity, source, the source of all, right? Okay. So number 2, from there, you have profit margin, pricing power, duality, opposites. That's another correspondence or a principle or an idea that I could link with profit margin and pricing power. Now, you might not link it the same way, and there's really no one set way to do this, but the point is to make it meaningful to you personally. This is what this is making it meaningful to you personally. And it's also helping you to hook these things together so you can remember them and ultimately implement them on a subconscious level in your daily life. And in this case, in your business dealings or in your employment dealings. So number 3, you have one of the correspondences to 3 is harmony. And for me personally, I linked that with value capture, lifetime value, and time value of money or quality. Okay, so here you have all these different ideas that you can link up to. Now, I did not have exaggeration or action or anything like this because this is just a basic associative linking system that I've created for myself on this particular part of this book because it was important to me. But this is just an example of how you can kind of do it. There's really no right or wrong way to do it, as long as you have fun and as long as you continue to learn and grow from this. Here's another one I did. Once again, as you can see, I like to use the Kabbalistic tree of life because it is just, the system itself for memory and learning is just awesome. So, excuse me, this is the book here, the Feeling Good Handbook, the New Mood Therapy. And the core or the gist of this book is about the 10 most common cognitive distortions. You have all or nothing thinking, overgeneralization, mental filter, disqualifying the positive, jumping to conclusion, under which you have mind reading and fortune telling error. Then you have magnification or minimization or catastrophizing, emotional reasoning, should statements, labeling and mislabeling, and personalization. So once again, what I went ahead and did, I took those 10 common cognitive distortions and I matched them up with the 10 divine principles of the Kabbalistic tree of life, along with some other things from psychology. So for example, I kind of thought that these two could be interchanged, all or nothing or overgeneralization, because this principle here, the number 1, once again, is the source of all, but also it comes from no thing or Ein Sofer in the Kabbalistic tradition, no thing that we could wrap our minds or heads around. So it is nothing, but it is not nothing as far as like there's nothing in existence. It is just no thing that we can wrap our head around. So it may as well be nothing because it is outside of our awareness. All right, so hopefully you understood that, but if not, you're welcome to do a little bit more research on the Kabbalistic tree of life. Anyway, so here we go. All or nothing, overgeneralization. And then from here we have a mental filter. Then from here we have disqualifying the positive. And actually, in psychology, this Sephiroth actually corresponds to memory. So that's a very interesting correspondence I found. Next, jumping to conclusions, minimization or magnification or catastrophizing, emotional-based reasoning, and once again, in the Kabbalistic tree, Netzach, which is the Hebrew name for it, Netzach, actually corresponds to the emotional part of our psyche in psychotherapy and psychology. This one here corresponds to the logic consciousness, or the logical part, or reasoning, or the intellect, or Hod in the Kabbalistic tree, which I immediately correspond with should statements. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Okay? And then again, down here, labeling, mislabeling. Yesod is the foundation of the physical realm. And then you've got personalization, or Malkut, which corresponds to earth, or physical reality, or the physical body. So from there, I was able to go ahead and hook up some ideas from this book here, Seeking Wisdom, right? We have the mistakes in thinking and in judgment, right? We have the physics and math of misjudgments. We've got the psychology of misjudgments. And we've got guidelines to better thinking. So this is going to help you to make better decisions. So what I wanted to do is hook this with the common cognitive distortions, because this one here also has some things in it. Like, I'll show it to you here. Let me see. You've got the misjudgments explained by psychology. And here is, for example, you've got bias from mere association, underestimating the power of rewards and punishment, underestimating bias from own self-interest and incentive, self-serving bias, distortion by contrast comparison, bias from anchoring. So check these things out. So I had a lot of these, and for some reason, intuitively and implicitly, I felt there was a connection between these two books here, because you're talking about cognitive distortions and cognitive biases to watch out for. Now, this one is geared towards managers and investors and folks in the business world, whereas this one is geared to people who are suffering from depression, anxiety, and this is more on a personal level, whereas this is more on a professional business level. But I would say you can definitely use both of them in conjunction. This stuff you can definitely apply in your personal life, and you can definitely apply this in your business life, because if you're anxious, if you're stressed, you're not going to perform as well in business. So having your emotions sorted out, having your thoughts sorted out, and feeling good, as this book explains, is going to help you to have a lot more optimal performance, whether you're at work as an employee or a business owner. Okay, so what did I do here? Check this out. I took the physics and math of misjudgments, you see, and I once again did the associative linking here. Systems thinking, scale and limits, causes, numbers and their meaning, probabilities and number of possible outcomes, scenarios. And one of the correspondences to this particular Sephiroth, Tiperet, is imagination in psychology, or beauty. So I put scenarios and alternatives, because these are things you usually have to imagine different scenarios, right? If you're problem solving, you also have to use a little imagination to think of some alternatives sometimes, right? So that's how I kind of put that together. But like I said, you may do it differently. You might have different correspondences that have certain meanings for you. And while there is an overall general way to do this, there is a lot of room for creativity and individuality. So keep that in mind. You don't have to do it exactly the way I have it. But once again, this Sephiroth here, I have coincidences and miracles. And because this Sephiroth Netzach has the correspondence in psychology as the emotional consciousness, Here, you've got desire and passions. You've got emotional-based reasoning, which is in the cognitive distortion, the CBT. But then also in the mathematics and physics of misjudgments, you have coincidences and miracles. And a lot of times we tend to write things off as a miracle when it's really just a coincidence. But our emotions tend to sway us and maybe have us see things in a more romantic way, or sometimes we tend to have a magical perspective when really it's just plain old common sense, right? Right. And also, understanding this helps you to be protected from people who might want to manipulate you, or groups who might want to manipulate you into believing certain things and hijacking your imagination. And this is the route that they go through, is your emotions. Once they've got you in a high fever pitch, or they've got you fearful or excited, or whatever the case may be, in a peak experience, well, then that's where the emotional-based decision-making can come in, and this is where you could have a vulnerability. And understanding these things can help protect you, basically. So that's one idea I have there, one correspondence. We've got reliability of case evidence. We've got misrepresentative evidence. And then risk and attitudes. So, yep, check that out. I did that one here, and of course, I did another one here for the 28 mistakes in thinking or misjudgments in psychology, and once again, I correlated them with the 10 most common cognitive distortions in psychotherapy, in cognitive behavior therapy. So, as you can see here, number one, models of reality, and then I've got systems thinking corresponding to self-serving bias or underestimating bias from own self-interest or overgeneralization. The next two, which is duality, or one looking at itself in the mirror. This is the self, this is the not self. All these different correspondences. So here we've got bias from mere association, underestimating the power of reward and punishment, self-deception versus self-denial, distortion by contrast comparison, all or nothing, scale and limit. And as you notice here, a lot of these have two different entities or two different terms, scale versus limits, right? You've got bias from mere association. You've got reward versus punishment, deception versus denial, contrast comparison, all or nothing. So there you go. And then, of course, in psychology here, you've got some of these correspondences like wisdom, meaning, or true will. Okay. And it just goes on further like that. And that's how you kind of use memory aids and tools to help you learn and really lock things in. This isn't just to be able to pass tests and get good grades, but it's also something to help you keep it locked into your bones, to keep it locked in long after you might be taking any kind of test. But this isn't for any kind of test. This is just my own life test, personal research and development. But yeah, check that out. We've got Learning How to Learn. Excellent book. Seeking Wisdom. I've shown you this book in other videos many times. Feeling Good Handbook, that one too. Personal MBA. And of course the Trivium. I've gotten a lot of people asking about the Trivium and the mental models and all of that. So I've got 2 or 3 different kinds of viewers. I've got viewers from the ex-Jehovah's Witness community. I think this can help ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, definitely. And I've got people from the mental models, photo reading, accelerated learning, research community as well. So there's that. All right, thanks for listening, thanks for viewing, and let me know what you think. If you have any questions, if you have any ideas, or if you have anything that you want to, if you have a better way of doing this, let me know, because I'm always open to doing this much more efficiently. I'm always open to learning much quickly and much more efficiently, and it's just a lot of fun. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.